Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurudevo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om. In the parampara of our Vaidika samskara, the reason why Vaidika samskara, because we as believers, we believe in the Vedas, and the practices that we have are prescribed by the Vedas, and these practices have ordained our culture, tradition, and customs. So that culture is called Vaidika Samskriti, Vedic culture. So if you look back into the scriptures, we don't have a name for it other than Vaidika Samskriti, which was later known as Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. But basically, it is the Vaidika Samskriti. So in the tradition of Vaidika Samskriti, Sushrusha, learning it from the learned ones. So the tradition has been that there is a strong lineage of Guru Sishya Parampara. That Guru Sishya Parampara, which is based on Shastra. The spiritual knowledge is given in the Vedas in the last segment of the Veda. How many Vedas do we have? 4 Vedas. Before Vyas Bhagavan, they were considered as 3 Vedas, Trayi Veda. But after Vyas Bhagavan, he compiled all the existing knowledge which was being taught in the Guru Sishya Parampara and compiled them into 4 books. Thereby now we have the 4 books called Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Ayurveda. Right?
Atharvana Veda is Ayurveda. Atharvana Veda.
Just trying to jog you up in wakefulness. Early morning. So Atharvana Veda. Each of this Veda, the way it is there are different themes. Say if there is Rig Veda, in Rig Veda there are themes of study. These themes are called Samhita. This Samhita is further subclassified into 4 categories. 4 Vedas. Each Veda has different themes. Those themes are called Samhita, and the Samhitas have got 4 subcategories. These 4 are called Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. Mantra, a simple way to understand it is a formula. Different formulas to be applied in understanding that theme of knowledge or wisdom. If you have learnt your basic algebra, a plus b whole square equals a square plus b square plus 2ab. Simple. Now you substitute a and b, or if you have a and if you have a resultant and then you find b. Different ways of applying it. So all the mantras that are given, what do they mean? They are the formulas. Mananat trayate iti mantraha. That by which contemplating on trayate, the existing conditioning or limitation is removed. That is called mantra. Now mantra is very, if we consider it as the theory aspect, Brahmana is the applied aspect of that mantra. Like there is pure math and there is applied math. Pure physics and applied physics. Similarly, mantra is the theory part of it, whereas the Brahmana tells us how that mantra can be applied, where it can be applied, how to use it. There were many students who were not very satisfied with the application part, so they wanted to do further study and research. And they did this in their solitude. And their laboratories were in the seclusion in the forest and the caves. Aranya means forest. Aranyaka means that which is evolved, that which has evolved in the solitude of a forest. They are further research and trying to explain it in today's terms. That is called Aranyaka. Whatever be the theme, the Samhita, the final culmination of that theme of knowledge or wisdom should end in understanding one's own true nature. Therefore, the last segment of every Samhita necessarily has to be the Upanishads. Therefore, since it is the last segment of the Veda, that knowledge, that wisdom which is given in the Upanishads are also termed as Veda Anta, Vedanta. That is how we have the tradition of Vedanta. Now, this Vedanta has various sampradayas, traditions of understanding and interpreting. What we follow is called the Advaita Vedanta, non-dualistic understanding of this knowledge and wisdom, and which has been handed down from generation to generation through the strong Guru Sishya Parampara. Now, Swami Swarupananji is the head. Just 2 months ago, it was Swami Tejomananji, Guruji. Before him, it was Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji. His Guru, the Siksha Guru, is Tapona Maharaj. But the sannyasa was given by Swami Shivananji. Shivananji belonged to the Sringeri Ashram, Sringeri Matha. So he took sannyasa from Sringeri Ashram. Sringeri Ashram has had a very strong lineage. It was one of the first ashrams that Adi Shankaracharya ji established. So our lineage is directly connected to Adi Shankaracharya ji. Adi Shankaracharya ji's Guru, Govinda Bhagavat Padaji. His Guru, Gauda Padaji. His Guru, Shukacharya ji. His Guru is Vedavyasa ji. His Guru is Parashara. His Guru is Shakti. So this way, our lineage you can map to about 8,000 years old. It's a very strong tradition of 8,000 years old tradition, wherein 8,000 years old, because that is how much I have been able to calculate. It must have been older than that. So through the Guru Sishya Parampara, that which is based out of this Vaidika Samskriti, the tradition which believes in the Vedas, the knowledge aspect which is in the Upanishads, which are also called Vedanta. But in order to understand this Vedantic wisdom, it is like the postdoc. Aranyaka is the research. So if you call that as PhD, then the Upanishad is the postdoc. So the expectation of the Upanishadic teachings is that we are very familiar with all the concepts that are explained and pointed to. In the Upanishads, you don't find a lot of explanations. They are pointers, direct pointers. But if I have to understand those pointers, then I should have the basic infrastructure of understanding that indicators, pointers. Therefore, masters like Adi Shankaracharya ji, Madhusudana Saraswati ji, I'm just taking few names, Vidyaranya Swami, Ramaraya Kavi, Lakshmana Kavi. These are all various such masters who have devised a method in introducing these terms and how to understand them. Those works are called Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana Grantha, that which equips us in understanding all the terms and terminologies that are used in the Vedantic context in a clear manner, so that when I take the Upanishad, the Upanishadic knowledge is understood clearly. One of such very prominent works in the recent history is the contribution of our Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, who spent his entire life in a place in Tamil Nadu called Tiruvannamalai. In southern India, like we have Dvadasha Jyotirlinga, in the southern India there is another tradition of belief wherein we have the Panchabhuta Linga. 5 Shivalinga temples or Shivalayas, each one invoking one tattva of the Panchamahabhuta. First of all, Panchamahabhuta, how many are they? 5. Clue was there in the beginning. Pancha Mahabhuta. So 5 of them. What are they? Earth. They have to go in a sequence of gross to subtle or subtle to gross. So earth, water, air, fire, and then space. So the earth one is called the Prithvi Linga. Where is it? It is in the Kanchipuram. Then the water Shivalinga is in Tiruchirappalli or Trichy, is the Jambukeshwara. Then the air Shivalinga is in Srikalahasti. Then the 4th one is the fire, which is in Arunachaleshwara in Tiruvannamalai. And the space Shivalinga is in Chidambaram. Meaning what? There is no Shivalinga in Chidambaram. There is space which is worshipped as Shiva. So you will not find a Shivalinga there. There is just a curtain, and next to that curtain there is a Nataraja Murti. And that is called the Chidambara Rahasya. The secret, the mystic Chidambaram. Because there is no Shivalinga there. They pour the Panchamrita and do the Abhisheka for what? For that space there. So of these, the Tiruvannamalai is the Agni Linga. So now Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, who was born in a village in Tamil Nadu, in the Ramnad district, in the year 1879. When he was very young, he had somebody in his family, they passed away. So as a young boy who was seeing for the first time a first-hand experience of death of somebody close, was intrigued by what was happening, the commotion. So he asked all the elders, what happened? They said, he died. What do you mean by death? They were like, how do you explain a 5-6-year-old what death is? So they tried cushioning it with different ways. And one of them said that that person has left the body. And that intrigued him further. So immediately, while everybody was crying and offering their condolences, he went into the back of the house, got up to the attic. That was the only calm place that he could find. imitated similar environment, like that dead body was lying still. So he also lied down still, and there he visualized himself quit the body, leave the body, if it is possible. The intensity with which he tried, he got shaken up by that experience. He did get out of the body, and he saw his own form. And rattled by that experience, that was a very unique experience. It was a different experience. See, when we interact with the world, we have a certain notion that I am this body and I interact with being this body with the others around. But when he could see his own body as he could see anyone else, he very clearly knew that I am not this entity, I am something else. That kept burning in his inside as a quest. Who was that? If I am not this, who am I? So he was about 8, 9 years old. See, maturity has got nothing to do with age. Many of us grow old, but to grow wise is a choice. And that maturity of understanding was so profound that when he was about 8 years old, his parents were not there, his older brother was there. His mother was there, but his older brother was taking care of the family, earning for the family. The older brother gave him about 3 or 4 rupees, saying, "Go pay it for your school fees." So he wrote a note to his brother saying, "Don't waste any more money on me, either by searching for me or for my studies. This will be your last money spent on me." So he took that money, bought a ticket because he had heard about Arunachaleshwara and he wanted to pursue this particular experience and the profoundness that it had provided. It is said that there was not enough money, so he had earrings. When you have the Yajnopavita Samskara sacred thread ceremony, your ears are pierced and you have a small gold thread that is tied in. So he removed that and pawned it and got money and got the ticket and got across. And whatever was left with him, he threw it into the lake or the pond there, discarded all his clothes, and spent several years in severe penance. For the longest time, he lived in the temple sanctum itself. There is, if you go to the Tiruvannamalai temple, after you visit the main temple, as you are coming out on the left side, there is the Patala Shivalinga. You have to go downstairs. And there, he seemed to have spent a lot of time in meditating, observing his penance. And after establishing in that profoundness of experience, he moved out of the temple into a small cave very close to the Arunachaleshwara mountain. And that cave is called the Virupaksha cave. And it was only later part of his life that the present day ashram that is seen, that he started spending his time, and that developed as an ashram around him. But the small kutia that he lived in, it's just about 8 feet by 10 feet with one small sleeping arrangement And that was also a slab of rock that was put on which he had a little mat and he would sleep there. Other than 2 or 3 pieces of cloth, lion cloth, he had nothing else to required, and a pot of water. And people started visiting him. There was one particular devotee or a friend that he acquired in the form of Ganapati Muni, Kavya Kanta Ganapati Muni. He was a profound scholar in Sanskrit and Vedic knowledge. Wherever Bhagwan would utter something, whenever he would say, give advice, very rarely he was a man of few words. He would jot them down, as Bhagwan was saying, and then circulated those things as the message of Bhagwan. One day Bhagwan asked him to translate or give the essence of Shiva Purana. In Tamil, there is Shiva Purana, which many Shiva devotees chant it in the morning. So Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi had asked him to translate it. There is one particular dialogue of Bhagwan to a set of Brahmins. In that Shiva Purana, there is a situation wherein Bhagwan Shiva, to teach these Brahmins who were so heavily consumed by Karma Kanda that they would not even recognize the presence of the Lord. And when they did recognize the presence of that Lord, the Lord started speaking. That portion, Ganapati Muniji thought that it would be appropriate if Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi himself translated it. And what came out as a translation by Bhagwan is what is incorporated as Upadesha Saram. And when people ask me, they have these amazingly weird questions. So one of such, what is your favorite text? Every one of them is such an amazing gem. It depends on who asks as well. If there is a youngster who comes and asks me, what is your favorite text? I tell them, self-unfoldment. That way you will start with that. But for somebody who needs a comprehensive understanding as to what is path of spirituality and self-inquiry and self-evolution, to them I suggest to start with this beautiful work called Upadesha Saram. The entire wisdom of Vedic knowledge, the entire wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras have been merged into this one work. So it very beautifully, in a very simple language, explains all aspects. Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, Dhyana. And the simplicity of the language is what is the most mesmerizing part of this work. I am not known, for those who know me, to be a good singer. A good singer, no, I would say to be a singer at all. With lot of difficulty, I have picked up this tune. No, you may pick up. Don't change it for me, otherwise I'll lose this one also. There are many newer students who changed the tune. And I'm like, don't, because that which I remember will be lost. I've been chanting Guru Stotram for what, about 23 years or 25 years now. Even that, if somebody changes, I'll lose the tune. That is how profound I am in music. Once I was singing, and unfortunately, I attempted only once while I was studying in the ashram. Unfortunately, to my convenience, Puja Guruji arrived at that very time. You know how beautiful singer he is. So he was not amused at my singing. He was looking very. But I closed my eyes so that I could complete it. Otherwise, the piercing look I couldn't have completed. I closed my eyes. After my singing was done, he looks at me and says, his voice should be given on a radio. I was like, what is the catch here? And he had that twinkle of mischief in his eyes. And he was looking at me and he said, at least there we can turn it off. So, having given my profoundness in music, please don't confuse me by any other tune. Please follow along. The first shloka. कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम्
कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम्
कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडम्
कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडम्
कृतिमहो दधौ पतनकारणम् फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतम् चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकम् See how simple. It is not more than 8 words in each verse. And within those 8 words, he explains subtle understanding of whatever concept. Like here he is talking about the field of action, karma yoga, and very beautifully explains it in a very lucid, easy words and understanding. Even if you understand any native language in India, you should understand the Sanskritam that is used. Sometimes when you read Sanskritam, there are some poets who use quite a intense language. But of those, I think Bhagavan Vedavyasji's language or use of Sanskritam is fairly easy. Easier than his is the work by our Adi Kavi, Valmiki ji, in Ramayana. Easier than that is this. Kartuhu agneya prapyate phala. Karma kim param karma tajjadam. It is often a tradition that whenever such profound work begins, that right in the beginning, there is a offering of salutations to the Lord. In northern India, they say Shri Ganesh. Like you think of that Lord and then start the work. If you have listened to, say, Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, Viveka Chudamani, so Adi Shankaracharya ji dedicates that first shloka to God and Guru. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. To that Govinda, the Lord, I offer my salutation, Pranatosmyaham. And he has this pun there. Govinda was his Ishtadaiva. Lord Krishna was Adi Shankaracharya's Ishtadaiva. And Govinda also happens to be his Guru, Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya. So to both, he offers salutation right in the beginning in the first sloka. Similarly here, the very mention, the very thought that it begins with Kartuhu Agnyaya. Kartuhu Agnyaya. Agnyaya by the command of Kartuhu, the creator. So the salutations to that creator, without whose command we cannot get the results. Prapyate phalam. Karma kim param karma tajjadam. Yesterday we saw in the inaugural discourse the inevitability of action. We perform actions. Now when we try to understand why do we do what we do, whatever we are doing, why do we do it? It's not a tricky question. It's a very simple question. A desire to be fulfilled. To acquire what? To acquire the result of that desire being fulfilled. Once the desire is fulfilled, what do I acquire? A sense of joy, peace, and fulfillment. Meaning there is no action that we perform without the anticipation of that joy ever. Now, if I shift that question in a different way, it will become more obvious. Have we ever done any action? Have we ever performed any action ever with the intention of being miserable? Think about it. I have been a Swami for about 23 years. I am yet to meet a person who comes and says, Swamiji, please pray for me. I am putting this effort, I am planning it thoroughly so that I can be miserable. Please pray for me. Instead, our effort is always to remove misery and to find joy that I can enjoy. Isn't it? I'm not talking of how it results into. I'm talking only of the intention that we begin an action with. What is the anticipation? That it should remove misery, dukkha nivritti, and it should provide joy, that which I could cherish, sukha prapti. So all these actions that we perform, we wake up in the morning. Even if there is no alarm, you will be forced out of the bed. Why? Dukkha nivritti. See, as soon as I come to a new place, more than finding out the Wi-Fi password, Because almost every other week I'm traveling to a new place, a new house, a new place to live in. One thing that I'm amazed is no two houses have the same faucets in the bathroom. I was at somebody's place, a very fancy place that they had built. I wake up at around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and do my exercises, and then my japa or dhyana or study something. I woke up and then I went to take shower. I got thoroughly confused with the arrangement there. I tried, nothing was working. So I had to wait till 6 o'clock for them to wake up so that I could take shower. Since then, I made it a point. The first thing is understand that the faucets so that I will be not disturbing them early in the morning. So I understand that. So when I wake up, the first thing is to know where my bathroom and toilet is. Why? Dukkha nivritti. Isn't it? Nature's call. Even if I didn't want to wake up, I will be forced to wake up because of dukkha nivritti. Freshen up and then come to the kitchen. Everybody has an early morning habit. Now, what is that habit? Coffee or tea. Some hot beverage. How many of you are coffee lovers? Tea lovers? And those of you who did not raise your hand, you have got no love in you. Some kind of a hot beverage. One day I was at somebody's place, and that Amma, I had already had my food. I just visited them, but the Indian hospitality. Swamiji, could be a chai. So she made, and she was one of those health freaks. So she made that chai. In my opinion, it was hot water boiled and spoiled to be called as tea. And she was standing right next to me at a point blank range, asking, Swamiji, how is it? What do I say? I've already given out my impression, right? Hot water boiled and spoiled. So I took another sip, and then suddenly it flashed. I said, Amma, your tea is Nirguna Nirakar Parabrahma Paramatma. She didn't ask for an explanation. I didn't offer an explanation. She thought it reminded me of God, and she was happy with it. I was happy that she didn't press for a meaning. What I meant was that it has no guna, no akara, nothing. It has no taste, it has no smell, it has no... And you call that tea? You have a morning beverage. Now, why do you need that morning beverage? Sometimes you find people early morning and they're like droopy faces. What happened? I had to start with my coffee first. I'm missing my coffee. To jumpstart, to kickstart my day. Sukha Prapti. Every minute detail of our action is either for Dukkha Nivritti or Sukha Prapti. Of these, there are many that we elaborately plan so that we can accomplish both of these, Dukkha Nivritti and Sukha Prapti, But then we get disappointed that the action that I have performed, I was sincere, I applied all intensity, I have tried every possible method known to apply, and yet the result did not turn in as anticipated or in a timely manner. It happens. First time I ever cooked, it was just me and my brother. We were very young. So his comment was, I refuse to touch this toxic waste. The roti had burnt. In food, the natural ingredients, when they caramelize, it has a flavor to it. But if they carbonize, they lose that flavor. So mine was the later category. So when my father came, he said, Dad, we had dinner. Let's go and have something in the restaurant. I desired for a certain output, but it turned out something else. Sometimes I put the effort. I wanted this manager's position. I have checked everything that should have been done, but I did not get the promotion. There is no effort which was left that should have been tried or that could have been tried. I have tried everything, but yet it did not result. So we get disappointed. So here, Ramana Maharshi ji says, we think that our karma is the most profound thing that we have as our tool to find our means. But then we may perform our karma, but who decides when or how I should get that result? He decides. Kartuhu agnyaya prapyate phalam. Now let's go a little detail into this. The same soil in your backyard, spring season begins, and many of these Indians have the fancy of growing their own vegetables. I have calculated it is not economical. The amount of time, energy, resources that you put in, 1/20th of the cost you get the produce. But then they have this fancy. I grow it in my own garden. So you till the land, you create that patch, you sow different seeds. Usually all these creepers. I'm not talking of people, I'm talking of the plants. All these creepers like Tindora, then there is this bean, one special kind. What is it called? What do you call it in Hindi?
It's
Papdi. Papdi is Gujarati though. That one, you recognized it. Then the turi. Then the squash. Then the bitterest one, the bitter gourd, Karela. Each one of them growing in the same patch of land. Each one of them have different taste and appearance, isn't it? Now, if you sow, say, these kinds of plants, how much time will they take to yield the first produce? About 35 days, you should get your first produce if you have timed it well. In the spring season, when it has not been hit by any frost, then it should be 35 days, you should have your first produce. Then you start finding reasons to go to other houses because you have got so much and you cannot eat the same bhaji, same sambar, same everything every day. So you find excuses to go and then please take. Now in that patch, you sow a coconut. How much time will it take? It to germinate and grow, it takes few years. And the first produce comes in about 5 to 7 years. The first produce. As a gardener, I cannot sit there and compare that coconut with this creeper and say, look at that fellow. He is younger than you. He is tender than you. Well, we are famous with our kids. We compare, right? Kuch to sharam kar. Because each seed has its own time of producing its result. If it is paddy, if it is rice that is to be grown, it will take about 3 months. In between two paddy seasons, if you plant these legumes, dals, it takes about 35 days for it to get the produce. Each one of those seeds have their own time to give the result. A coconut has 5 years, a guava plant has 3 years, paddy has 3 months. Similarly, each one of our actions has its own time to produce the results. I may be impatient to have the result now. There's this beautiful bhajan wherein Sudasji says, Krishna came to Yashoda and asked for butter. He said, you just had it about a few minutes ago. You shouldn't eat so much. When will I? When it is dark. So Bhagavan Krishna, okay, now it is dark. He closed his eyes. Okay. He was impatient to have it then and there. We are also quite impatient. As soon as I put the effort, like our kids, you have just sat in the car, you have started moving, they start asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? We will be there. Yesterday it took less time, but today I have traffic. Today the traffic is jammed or there's an accident, I'm taking a different route. We'll be there. But we are impatient. Each action as a seed has its own time to evolve as a result. Now let us take it in a broader picture. I have sown that seed of action. For that action to yield that result, that kind of environment has to be created. That kind of person, that kind of people, that kind of environment has to be created, and all of these have to intersect to produce that result for which I have acted. as soon as our children get married. Until they get married, we keep pestering them. Get married, get married. And once they get married, the pestering doesn't stop. The topic of pestering changes. What is the next thing? Bacche ka. It will take its own time. And we may have increased technology and grown in science. It will still take 9 months. Similarly, each action that we sow as a seed has to have that environment developed for that environment to give that result. And who has created this world? That who has created this world has created this world with certain natural laws of nature. According to that nature's law, whatever action that I perform, with the intention, with the intensity, with the appropriateness of the tools, and with the skill with which we perform all these various parameters and many more, when I perform a result which is directly corresponding to all these facets, that environment which can give that result also has to align. That is why in Hindi they say, "Der hai par andher nahi." भगवान के यहाँ देर है पर अंधेर नहीं. It will take its own time. I cannot rush the process. All that I can is perform my side of it diligently. Kartuhu agneya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tajjadam. Action is not that great, param, supreme in the sense independent, that I can make whatever I feel like, because it is interdependent on so many other facets. And to be truthful, in every intersection of life, when there is a choice, there is a good choice and then there is a easy choice. Which one do we choose? There is coffee to be made. You have to boil that water, then put it on that coffee powder, and then allow it to trickle down, wait for it, and then add milk. Time nahi hai. What do I want? So instead, what do we do? Instant. I need that result immediately. It's the same mindset that we try applying everywhere. That I perform the action, I immediately need the result. But the result it depends on these many variables. So the action is not that very independent. Ishwaragnyaya kartuhu agnyaya prapyate phalam. Who gets what, when, and where, that is decided by that Lord. We will get it. How and when, we need to have patience for it to result into. But then, because of our impatience, because of not understanding the matrix of this entire field of karma, which many intelligent ones get baffled with, overwhelmed by, what happens? the same field of karma which we are anticipating, joy, happiness, dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti, instead of giving either one of them, we see that our own actions cocoon ourselves into limitations. And instead of providing joy, instead of relieving us from misery, it seems to build more and more of it. Why does that happen? That is the discussion of the next two shlokas that we will see tomorrow. Since today was the beginning, my run rate has been slow. Don't worry about my run rate. Once the wicket is established, then you can start taking on the different strokes. But now I think the wicket is established. From tomorrow on, we'll go on more smoothly into the topic itself. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So we'll meet in the evening for the assorted discourses. Hari Om.
నైవేద్యం చేసి తప్పకుండా చేసేస్తాం.
Cheers.
Yeah.